Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss Boris Johnson and Liz Truss's plans to introduce a bill over the coming week in order to break the Northern Ireland Protocol. And I'll be discussing the political and legal wrangling going on behind the scenes for this policy, which only exists to keep Boris Johnson in Downing Street. But Liz Truss may be making a power play here. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the legal situation first, I think. Anyone paying attention to this nonsense with the Northern Ireland Protocol knows two things. First, the protocol is supported by a majority in Northern Ireland and that businesses there want it in place. Yes, they want things improving, but they want it in place. Recent data has shown yet again that the part of the UK with the highest growth is Northern Ireland. Generally, you'd expect it to be London. That performs the best normally, but Northern Ireland is outstripping everywhere else because the Northern Ireland Protocol gives it a huge competitive advantage. It can freely export to both the GB market and the EU market. Secondly, that unilaterally changing the terms of the protocol is a breach of international law because the treaty which contains the protocol is an international treaty. In fact, let me read a line from a UK government document which is still live on the withdrawal agreement ahead of when it was signed. This is a direct quote. The withdrawal agreement between the UK and the EU will be an international agreement binding both parties as a matter of public international law. However, the government are trying to claim that the bill they are introducing to Parliament in a few days will not breach international law. Now, where a parliamentary bill might have an impact on international law, it obviously is going to be standard practice to get legal opinions. All perfectly normal. Sir James Eadie is the government's top legal advisor. His official title is First Treasury Counsel. And although the government will seek legal opinions of several barristers for bills like this, Eadie would always be consulted. However, this is where normal procedure seems to have changed. Sky News reported that although Eadie was technically consulted, he was specifically told not to provide a legal opinion on the bill. Now, why would that be? The natural conclusion to come to would be that the government knows the bill breaks international law and it doesn't want their top lawyer saying so. Because then they'd have to report it to Parliament. Parliament would then have to block it because otherwise they're seen to be breaking the law. Even if Tory MPs went along with it, the House of Lords would surely not sully themselves with an illegal bill. When the Prime Minister was asked about specifically ordering their top legal advisor to not give opinion, Johnson seemed to deny it. But Sky News had the details of the exchanges with Eadie. These details explain how the government engaged several barristers to form the legal opinions that suited them, how the government specifically told Eadie to assume there was sound legal basis for the bill, so not to even question it, just work on that assumption. Eadie says he accepted the instruction because he has to do what he's told, but he made it clear that he was not asked to comment on the merits of the legal views from the other barristers, even though he was sent them. Although, in an embarrassment to the government, Eadie did actually suggest that one of the barristers engaged offered a legal view that was, in his words, to quote, considerably easier to follow and more convincing. This would be the legal view that the bill basically breaks international law. So as a result of the investigation by Sky News, we know that the government have tried to suppress the legal views on the bill. We know that Boris Johnson has, at the very least, misled Parliament. And I know people will not consider that last statement to mean much when he lies so often to Parliament, but that's a problem in itself. Because as soon as we do not make a fuss of Johnson lying in Parliament, we have basically allowed him to normalise that behaviour. Indeed, when journalists seized on Johnson's statement on Wednesday and asked Johnson's spokesperson about it, that spokesperson did not seem keen on giving direct answers to the questions. They only said that Eadie was consulted about the bill. Yes, but that's not the question, is it? The question is, was Eadie told not to give a legal opinion on the bill, and was he told to assume the bill was on firm legal ground without questioning it? Johnson, the known liar, seemed happy to deny this was the case in Parliament, so why wouldn't the spokesperson echo the Prime Minister's denials if it's clear cut? So that's the legal position. You'd have to be a blithering idiot to think that the bill being put to Parliament next week is in any way legal. It would be curious, to say the least, that domestic legislation to change an international treaty without the permission of the other party in that treaty could ever be legal. But when your top legal expert is told to keep his opinions to himself, you have to be insane not to smell a rat. But there are political as well as legal arguments as well. Remember that it was David Frost who was dealing with the protocol until the end of last year. Then he went off in a huff, he resigned, and the job was given to Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary. Not a ridiculous move, sort of makes sense, but it wasn't necessary. It could have gone to someone else. And it was curious politically, because remember that Johnson's survival owes much more to the lack of credible successors than it does any escapology tricks on Johnson's part. You know, his backers try and say, oh, he's a remarkable politician. He survives all these things. Isn't it remarkable? No, it's not remarkable. It's because no Tory MP is clearly a better leader than he is. That's the problem. He has pretty much sunk Sunak's challenge. That's gone. You know, the cost of living crisis and the highest tax burden since the 1940s has seen to that. The next main challenger is Liz Truss. You did wonder if giving her this potentially poisoned chalice was his way of tripping her up. But if it was, Truss doesn't seem to want to fall into the trap as easily as Sunak did. There were reports of a bit of argy-bargy in Cabinet last week. According to the Financial Times, which seems fairly sure of its sources, Johnson had a go at Truss for toughening up the draft bill. It would certainly be credible. People have asked me what support Truss would have in the party because she's such an idiot. You know, if it came to a leadership contest. Well, she wouldn't be backed by the more sensible MPs because, you know, she's an idiot. She's also just as lazy and vain as Johnson. She may not invite the same scale of scandals as Johnson, but there are definitely easy lines of attack for Labour if she became their replacement leader. So Truss has been trying to get the support of the swivel-eyed loons in the ERG. This has meant recently dropping her attempts at a negotiated settlement and taking the hard line. Perhaps she feels that Johnson's time is coming to an end and she needs to shore up her support. She may have seen this protocol brief as less a poisoned chalice and more an opportunity for the once Remain campaigner, let us remember, to initiate herself into the ranks of hard Brexiteers just as Johnson did before her. Interesting power play if this is the case. If Johnson is attacking Truss for going in too hard with this proposed legislation, and he's the one who's had to soften it, it does a couple of things. First, it creates a cabinet split, and one that could see some of the genuinely hard Brexiteers arguing on Truss's side. Secondly, it gets the ERG thinking that maybe their task would be easier with the less cautious Truss in charge than Johnson. Johnson could find himself without enough allies if this goes wrong. More normal Tory MPs want Johnson gone because he's costing them the next election. If the nutters also want him gone because they've got an even more insane alternative, then he could be finished sooner rather than later. In fact, the FT article said that the bill was being redrafted to make it less abrasive, they said. And that could also play into Truss's hands, because if the bill doesn't quite go as far as the ERG would like, Truss could always tell them that it was actually much more robust, but that Johnson ordered it to be toned down. As far as this report indicates, Rishi Sunak and Michael Gove are against the bill. In Sunak's case, it's because we can't afford a trade war and he's the Chancellor. In Gove's case, because he's worried about the reputational damage to the UK. We know Suella Braverman, the Attorney General, is in favour because she's already said it's legal. I'm guessing that Dominic Raab is fine with it because, well, Dominic Raab. Mad Nads will back whatever Johnson wants. There's no suggestion that the legislation is going to be rushed either. There'll be both legal and political challenges, no doubt. This bill, if it ever becomes law, may not be ready for a long time yet. Normally bills like this do take a very long time. Sometimes we're used to these things being rushed, but there's no sign that it is going to be rushed. If the House of Lords blocks it, and you would imagine they would, it can't be made law until there's a new session of Parliament, which would be next year at the earliest. You know, even without such a block, it might still not be ready this year anyway. You know, if there's no major rush to get it through Parliament. And this just plays into Liz Truss's hands for me, because she can be patient. She can keep telling the swivel-eyed loons that she wanted it beefing up, but Johnson lost his nerve. Johnson will be gone before this bill becomes law. And then Truss can campaign on her hard Brexit credentials. You may wonder what she expects to do if she wins and is then expected to put her money where her mouth is with this bill. Well, this is Liz Truss we're talking about here. She may not have thought that far ahead. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.